Hello, everyone, and look,
Hello.
what a lovely bunch of practitioners and teachers we've got on the webinar tonight. We've got Cindy, Jill, Nina, Mike, and Ivan. Many of them are friends of New Energy Work and have done lots of work with us. And Nina's first time on a webinar, so welcome, Nina. We're great to have you. So basically what we're going to do is I'll put the first slide up, and then we'll run a couple of polls. Just say hi on the chat. Dinah is looking after the chat tonight, so she'll be marking up any questions that you have as we go along. And here it is, the first slide. And I'm just going to run two polls and find out a little bit about your experience, which is, have you ever treated a client with chronic burnout, chronic fatigue, burnout, or depression? I'm just going to run that straight away, and yes or no, and we'll see. Wow, interesting. There are actually like some people who haven't. Look at that. That's quite surprising. I think it's such a widespread set of conditions. But we've got 80% running there. 80% of people have. And then I thought it might be interesting just to see what the most of those three, which of the ones do you treat most often? I'm going to share that. That's the second slide. Which is the most that you treat the most often, the commonest thing out of those three, if you do treat clients with those things? And look, it's fairly even. Burnout's just slightly behind, but they're fairly even all the way. So you've picked a great topic there, perfectly spread across those three things. So yeah, thank you very much for voting for the polls. And so what we're going to do now is we're just going to just get Mike on the stage. So Mike and I will be on the stage. And we'll see everyone else a little bit later, because we've got the whole thing choreographed for you. There we go. Just get that. There we are. Okay, Mike. So tell us about the Vienna Summit.
Yes, hello everyone. Thanks a lot, Cliff, for the invitation. So last year we started with the first Shiatsu Summit in Vienna, and because of two reasons for us. So first reason, we wanted to create a different kind of Congress format, because usually when you go to a Congress, you have many different topics, many different lecturers. So it's a nice experience, but we wanted to create a format when you choose it, and when you come to Vienna, when you join the summit, when you go home, we really want that you take home some practical skills, some energetic insights. So we just focus basically on one big topic from different approaches. So this was one reason. Mm-hmm. And the other reason was we want to focus on topics that are really relevant for society right now. Because I think to position Shiatsu better in society, we should have the competence to really work with society's issues. Yeah. So last year, we picked up the topic of trauma, because trauma is a very big issue now in our society, and was a big success. And mm-hmm. also, when the topics we choose, they also has to do something with us as practitioners. So it's a part of the idea of the summit, that you learn something for your clients, but you also initiate part of your own healing process.
Very good idea. We don't want to burn out ourselves, do we? That's another important thing, you know?
Yes, especially if you work with Shiatsu with a lot of clients, you're all alone and you work with energy. So Shiatsu practitioners, I think they really have to take care of themselves to not get a burnout. And but right now, I think the last couple of years, they have been very challenging. So we had a lot of crisis, global crisis. When you put up the television, all you hear and listen is to crisis everywhere. So there was a lot of stress and tension in the air, especially when the pandemic hit the world. But after that, we had the wars. Now we have the climate change. We have financial crisis. So I think basically we could say now we are living in a world full of crisis. And then, this crisis create a lot of stress, and then there's a lot of insecurity in the society and in the individual, and this stress compared with insecurity and maybe with personal life challenges, this can lead to a very deep exhaustion. And I could feel it in the last years. The clients, I think there was not a single client who was not kind of tired in some way. So we thought this is a very relevant topic for society right now. And we really want to uplift the practitioners to get the right skills to work with these topics in a very effective way. But this exhaustion can manifest in different ways. So we choose like 3 core topics. It's chronic fatigue, burnout, and depression, because they're kind of a cluster. So there's this stress, there's this tiredness, and maybe with a mixture of your personality, you go more into this direction or you go more in that direction. So if we go to the next slide, as I told you already, the summit idea is that we put the practitioner in the center of the Congress. So the circles around the practitioner. We choose one topic, one focus for 5 days, and just a very limited group of experts, very experts who have a big competence to work in this field. And because we choose one topic, one focus for 4 days, our little mission is that we want to create the visitors, the practitioners should become an expert on their own. And what was very interesting last year, because last year we did it the first time. So because of this focus, the whole summit, it was kind of an energy field we built up from Thursday to Sunday. And we didn't expect that, but it was like when you enter the summit, you enter a big energy field, and this energy always circles around the center topic. And that was a very interesting process, because when you're in this energy field, it's much more about you as a practitioner. So for most of the practitioners, it was a journey into their own healing process, a journey into their own traumas. And this field, it really stayed very condensed, and that was just an amazing experience, like one organism moving those through those 4 days.
That's
and
great.
So the basic structure is you have workshops, and there's a difference between other congresses. So if you come to the summit, you will see every lecturer. So you have no choice, but that's the good part, because every lecturer in the summit wants to give you one very specific tool. So it's like you collect different tools to work with our core topic. And at the end of the day, you have 5 different tools in your toolbox. And whenever clients come to you, you maybe can use one of those tools. So we have very concentrated workshops. We will have panel discussions. We even, this year, we tried to align the morning exercises to the topic of the summit. We will have an ongoing Neigong class, which is very interesting, because in Neigong you work a lot with energy, building up energy. And then we also have, if you move on with the slides, we have one afternoon. So this is the big picture. This was very nice. So one afternoon is dedicated for sharing what you have learned in these days. We call this the exchange session. And last year, this was like such a nice energy field, 120 practitioners from all over the world treating each other. So this was really amazing. And then, of course, we will have a party, which is also very important, because we have to release this density of the energy in a nice party, shaking till midnight. So anyway, the 4 days, they're very much alive, and we work with a limited group. So you will stay in one group. This is also very nice. So you can make connections. We really can take care of you. So you're in a very safe space to explore yourself, to explore the topic. So it is very intense, but this intensity does a lot with you. And what we also do, we do a lot of aftercare for the visitors. Aftercare means that after 2-3 months, we have another session, Zoom session. We want to know, how are you doing with the stuff you learned? How are you doing? Are there any problems? So we really want to guide the people through this process for a longer time. This is our mission.
Great. That's great. Okay, fantastic. So we've got our first chance to meet Nina. someone I hadn't met before until we did the rehearsal together. So if I invite her onto the stage, and yeah, Nina.
Hello.
It's great to meet you. It's great to meet you. And because I didn't know you and I had to try and find out a little bit about you, I did Google around and I can see just how active you are. I was really interested, especially with your Shiatsu to Go project. That looked really, really interesting. So
Yeah.
it's like a kind of corporate thing, isn't it? Where you go out and do treatments?
Yeah, I go actually into the companies and we pick the people there, and it's more prevention work, right? So we try to find out how can we support to prevent
Great idea. Catch it early before it happens. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what's going to be the main theme? What's your main interest that you think you're going to enjoy sharing at the summit?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I would love to say that I feel so honored to be part of this fantastic panel of lecturers at this year's summit in Vienna. And I guess nobody actually never heard my name so far. And that's totally understandable as I work in my practice room somewhere in the nowhere of the Swiss Alps. And well, yeah, I'm a bit hidden here. But I have, I can make my experiences in my practice rooms here in Lucerne and also in the hospital in Zurich. And I have some cooperation work with psychologists also. So on the top.
Yeah, great. Because I know from my own experience in Switzerland that Shiatsu is now placed, isn't it, as a complementary therapy in amongst the other complementary therapies. It's got its own status, hasn't it now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually for this topic, depression, because Mike asked me to do a lecture about depression, I was like, it kicked me a bit, First I was a bit like, okay, I need to go out of my comfort zone because I know all these lecturers. So I was like, oh my God, okay. But I had also my personal connection to that topic. And I was always very focused in that topic and I want to know everything about it, as I was also touched in my family with depression.
Right, okay.
So it caught my, attention.
Yes.
And I really learned a lot about it, also with the psychologists I work with. So my theme, as you can see, is emotion regulation.
Yes.
It's actually a quite big topic when you have depression and you go into a therapy. This is one big topic they do with the depressed people, right? So it's about what I want to share is like, first we need to talk about the emotion itself and the layers underneath the emotion. So we have thought processes we need to talk about. We have body processes we need to talk about. And of course, the feelings and all the interaction, interplay with all these three layers, with these parts. And so we will go into all three. And I will share my techniques from coaching. So I come from the coaching, from talking and questioning, a lot of questions, and building up a positive mindset through questions. So I will go into that and share my techniques in the coaching. And we will go also in the body processes. We will go into embodiment. We will explore in ourselves what happens when my body changes.
Yes.
And how does it change also, of course, with techniques of Shiatsu that supports. I have some good techniques that really works well, that can change. And finally, we will see, what does it need for this person? Because, depression shows in so different ways. There's so many phases. It's not just one straight line. And this is, you cannot say that you're depressed. It's like it has so many symptoms. And this is also one thing we need, or I would like to share, is the symptoms of depression and the phase. How can you, feel what is need? Where's the need? So,
That sounds really great. Absolutely great. Yeah. And of course, Shiatsu is such a brilliant modality, isn't it? Because it combines, it has that connection through the ki, mind and body and everything. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you're going to have an amazing time. It sounds really, really exciting. So
I
thank you
look
so much.
forward.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
great. And it's lovely to meet you.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
so cool to be here. First time. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
exactly. That's brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look and see what's up. It's Cindy. Cindy. So let's see if we can invite her onto the stage. As you will well know, Cindy is very active in new energy work. And in fact, we've just got off Zoom call recently, haven't we, Cindy? We're working out.
Yes.
We're trying to figure out what the energy is in energy work. Not, we like those big tasks, don't we?
A little. We're just going to solve that whole problem of physics.
Yeah, in 1 hour later on in the week.
Yeah.
Anyway, Cindy, it's great to see you here, and and kind of really proud that you're there at the Vienna Summit, because you are in fact a graduate of our sister school here, right in Norwich, just across the block here. Hooray! So that's great for us to see you there. And I'm sure a lot of the new energy work people who have been to other webinars will already know about your amazing book, Another Self, and all your work with somatic empathy. You've done a lot of webinars for us. So maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what you're going to contribute, what you would really hope to share most at the summit.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm going to be doing some practical sessions on what happens to our body unconsciously when we interact with others, and then looking at how we can reduce being harmed by this unconscious process. So basically, I'm going to present the experimental and experiential evidence that when we think about someone, when we pay attention to someone, we start to simulate what is going on for them in our own body, and that most of the time we're not aware of that.
No.
So people can be completely oblivious to the fact that their heartbeat has come into coordination with somebody else's, or that their stress levels have gone up just because someone next to them is stressed. But us being shiatsu practitioners, we're usually very sensitive to these things. So we tend to kind of notice what I call somatic empathy more than, Joe Public, who is still getting a lot of physiological synchrony, but not noticing it, not knowing that what's going on for them is actually because of what's going on for someone else around them.
Yes.
So it's really important in our work as shiatsu practitioners to know what is self and what is client.
Yes.
But it's also really important for us to know when we're working on our client, what is our client stuff and what is coming to us through their somatic empathy with their family, their partner, or whatever. So if we're treating symptoms of burnout, chronic fatigue, and it doesn't feel right, there is a possibility that it's not even theirs. And it's just something to bring into the mix, is this awareness of somatic empathy kind of making this division between self and other quite messy. And once we know how it works, we can get a bit more clarity back about that. We don't want it to be all messy and mergy.
No, we don't. We really don't.
No.
Especially when you're talking about chronic fatigue, burnout, and depression. Let's face it.
You don't want messy and mergy. So I'm going to be looking at practical ways to turn this up and practical ways to turn it down. Yeah. So we just get control of it, but we can't get control of it unless we know the biology, the psychology of how it works. So I've come up with some sort of practical ways of demonstrating that, which I hope will work. I shall try them out on various people beforehand.
Yes, thank you for that.
Yeah. So there'll be some background science, but there will also be, let's get on and see what it actually means in practice when we're working on each other. My main link to the theme being that if you're sensitive to somatic empathy and you're working on people who are out of kilter all the time, there is this cumulative problem that can lead to burnout and overwhelm and chronic fatigue. And if you don't know what's causing it, this is a possible cause. And so
it can affect us, you mean?
Yes, it's been researched not on shiatsu therapists, but on psychotherapists. And I have to say that psychotherapists suffer more see, this is all anecdotal really, comparing, because we haven't done the work on body workers, but they seem to suffer quite severely because us body workers are more aware of what's going on in our body and we do something about it.
We hope.
That's a big jump.
No, but seriously, Cindy, one of the things that your work has made me very grateful for is that it does explain why we do all this stuff. You know, why
Yes.
we do all this self-scanning, self-development, finding out what's, you know, being very careful of switching our attention between the client, and all those things that are built into the techniques are just now they're just really, really understandable, aren't they now?
Yeah, why you made us for years do all this alignment.
Yes.
It's like, what's all that about? And it's
Yeah.
now it all makes sense. Yeah, as to
It does. I really very grateful for that. It's great. So
Yeah.
it sounds perfect for this theme, actually, doesn't it? This.
So it's aimed mainly at the practitioners to
Yeah.
how they can reduce accumulating what's called vicarious harm.
Right.
But there's also, I'm dropping in this thing of like, just be aware that your client can be suffering from accumulated vicarious harm.
Of course, yes.
I'm sometimes working on a client and all I get is an image of their partner all the way through.
Yeah.
And I just know it's, I'm treating the partner rather than them.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that reminds me of the relationship technique thing that I developed a few years ago. That's exactly to try and again unpick all of that.
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. Yeah. Wow. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Cindy.
Okay.
And yeah, I hope you have a great time.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, I bet you are. Okay, brilliant. So let's see what's next up. It's Ivan. Yes. Again, Ivan has been a great presenter for us at New Energy Work. Recently has done a couple of webinars for, and here he is, straight out of his class, as usual.
You good?
Yeah, absolutely fine, Ivan. It's great to see you again.
Thank you.
And in fact, you are one of the most active international teachers.
Well, probably not, because I think there is plenty of, but thank you for
and of course,
that.
you just recently launched your book, haven't you, which you launched on a New Energy Work webinar as well. Yeah, brilliant. So you've got lots of experience, I know you have, and I'd be very interested to know what your particular thing is that you think you'll be, contributing, the thing that you're most interested in sharing at the summit.
Yeah, I will talk about and work for treating the burnout syndrome.
Okay.
So that's one of the topics I really know, and I'm quite often invited to do some workshop about that.
Yes.
Yeah, especially because, well, unfortunately in my life, I've had to go through it.
Oh, you did yourself?
Yes. So that's why maybe now I'm quite good at it, because I have been through it and I know from the inside what is to be in burnout. And what is interesting is what you were talking about with Mike previously, is I was already a shiatsu practitioner.
Really? Wow.
Yes. So you see, even ourselves, we cannot pretend to be out of this problem. No, it can fall on you. And sometimes because you are completely deeply involved in this working. At that period, I used to work 8 hours per day, doing only treatment 8 hours per day, and also having a school to manage. Yes. And also having 2 little kids, and then plus. Yes. And at one point, it's too much. It's too much, and I wasn't quite aware of it until it falls on me.
Yes, and it can be quite a frightening thing, can't it?
It is indeed. It's really, at the beginning, the first symptoms, you start to wonder what's going on. And then suddenly your whole body, your whole energy is drained out, and you feel completely exhausted and a bit depressed, but mostly you don't know what to do, and you cannot do anything. In fact, you're just in your bed. Sometimes you're crying, you're not hungry, you feel a lot of exhaustion. Yes. And also sometimes a loss of confidence, because you feel your body completely melting, or incapable of doing anything. So you see, what's going on? It's not me. This is not me anymore. And so I've been able after that to treat myself in 8 months. After that, I decided to go really deep in this problem, because it affected me, and I was able to see that a lot of people, especially I was in Belgium at that moment, a lot of people were suffering about this syndrome. So it's well, I treated mostly, more or less, 350 people around on that topic.
Really?
So it's
Wow.
yeah. And there is a lot of signs that can happen to you if you're listening to me right now. Please be aware of all these things: irritability, difficulty to concentrate, anxiety, sleep disturbance, lack of appetite, back pain, eating disorders. Yeah, I told you. So many of things. So what should we do? And first, when as a shiatsu practitioner, is first to know how to treat it, and to be able to accompany the person, because it's going to be a long treatment. It's not going to be quick. It's not like a neck issue or whatever. Here we are talking about months of treatment.
Yes.
But it's super important for those people that are completely lost and facing this problem, to be here every week and tell them what to do, what not to do, and so on. So there is plenty of things to know about the burnout, not just the treatment, but also a lot of advice, how to eat, how to rest. And there is a kind of process in order to, to be able to feel better, simply feeling better, but it's step by step. You cannot rush, you cannot, time is impossible to compress in that process. You have to go through a lot of things.
Yes.
So yeah, it's interesting. And the first thing I'm explaining in this workshop is the difference between depression and burnout.
Yes.
From my point of view and my experience, because I've been able to treat a lot of people with those two conditions, it's completely the opposite. And for many of the doctors, they say, no, it's the same.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Some burnout can lead to depression, but barely no depression can lead to burnout.
Right. Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah.
That's the beginning of to get the ideas clear in your mind, to really be able to separate and differentiate both of them.
Fantastic. Yeah, brilliant. That's going to fit in really well with Nina's thing. In fact, they're all fitting together really well, aren't they? Because you've got Nina and you've got and you've got Cindy who can unpick that dynamic, like you say, between the practitioner and the client, and even the client's environment. So, okay, great to see you again.
Thank you
so much.
And just the last word is there is many ways for every condition to have a different approach, for a single thing. So my way of treating it is to see the human body as a bucket with layers. All these layers are well known. It's Shaoyin, Juyin, Taiyin, and so on. And then how we are going to feel those those layers of energy and slowly build a treatment on the long term. And I did that for now, 20 years. And it's always working, always. So I'm going to talk about the 6 energetics layer and how to deal with them for the burnout.
There you go. Excellent. Fantastic. Okay, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Great to see you again.
Okay, see you.
Next up, we have Jill. And I'm just going to invite her onto the stage. And yes, look at this. Jill is actually graduating from our Shiatsu College postgraduate program. So we've got 2 presenters who have associations with the Shiatsu College. So we're very proud of that. And Jill, you've done so much work with this for the Shiatsu scene in Spain. I know you have over many years or even decades, and it's great. And it's just great to see you on doing something like this. Really great to see you here.
Yeah, I'm very excited about this as well. It's like, it's a shame that I'm not Spanish, but it is recognition that people are coming from the Mediterranean countries into these big projects. It's always great.
Yeah, brilliant. So what's your special take on the whole topic of the Congress?
Well, there is a running joke that I am the one who's going to bring in mysticism, and I think Mike would really like that, because I'm doing it's like, Jill can come and do some Seiki work, and that would be very mystical.
Does that count as mysticism then?
Not at all. No, no.
No, I was going to say, I don't
And,
think it
I,
really does. No.
and I'm very much a farmer, so it's like Farmer Jill is coming to do the mystical stuff.
Right.
Anyway, because I practically got into Seiki before I had even started the postgrad, or just as I was starting the postgrad with you.
Yeah.
In the college, and I had literally just finished my basic training when I came over to do the postgrad.
Right.
So it's been running parallel, and I imagine most people, or a lot of people who are attending the webinar tonight, have some experience of Seiki. It's becoming much better known, especially sadly since Kishi died. It's become more and more well known, although it's always been present. So anyway, I got the message, and it's like, we're going to treat depression, burnout, and chronic fatigue. And where do you situate yourself? And of course, Seiki is really focused on finding that little bit of health that's in everyone.
Yeah.
It's not about working with pathologies or distortions or things that are going wrong. It's not about putting things right. You know, people who've spent time with Kishi, he often said, as long as there's 2% of health, that's what we're looking for, because that means the person's not dead.
Yeah.
And once that person shows you the health, you can accompany them to get more in touch with the life force, with their, you know, what they need to feel alive and what they need to be really being themselves. So I looked at the 3 topics, and I thought they do have something in common. It's everyone who I have treated over the decades with these conditions have always been very isolated, not only from their family, their work colleagues, their social situations, also very isolated from their own personal resources.
Yeah.
Isolated from that feeling of purpose and being alive and being connected. So how do you bring that into a workshop of 3 hours, I think the workshops are? And in Seiki itself, I mean, I like I say, I've been doing Seiki and Shiatsu parallel, so I'm not really a purist. And if there are a lot of Seiki people here in the webinar, they're probably going, damn you, Jill, damn you, don't speak about Seiki if you're not a purist.
Oh, I
because
see.
a lot of people are. But my Shiatsu is very informed by Seiki, and that's the way I like to experience it. And my Seiki experience is very informed by Kasken and more Japanese words. So if you don't know the term Katsugen, gen is like the source, your true nature, and Katsu is movement, and often movement back to. So it's like coming back to your true nature, coming back to yourself.
Yes.
And my plan is in the workshop to do something, because it's like it's a lot of not doing. Seiki, the way I work, looking for health, it's a lot of not doing, and which is very good for people who are very tired. You don't want to be working hard on someone who's tired. It's only going to make them more tired. So I was looking for something that had a little bit of structure. And I think I'm going to stay, or I know I'm going to stay with a little kata that we often worked in the very beginning when I was doing Seiki workshops with Kishi, which wasn't the beginning of his time, but it was the beginning of my time with him.
Yes.
And which sometimes he called Rikan no Jutsu. Sometimes it was just a kata, and it's just trying to contact with the person's movement and their resistance and guiding them away from the resistance. So keeping them in what is their natural movement. What I'm hoping is that there will be a lot of Katsugen, because my experience in workshops of Seiki, which I do quite a lot of, is that if it's a very strong external movement, because we always have Katsugen in Shiatsu, it's internal, it's any kind of movement.
Yes.
It's a natural movement, it can be just breathing, you know.
Yeah.
But if it's a very externalized and very dramatic and emotional movement, a lot of people are a little bit overwhelmed or a little bit put off with it, and they find it difficult to accompany in that situation and to hold that space and to be with that. And my experience with people, especially with chronic fatigue, which I guess I've worked a bit with everything, but mostly with chronic fatigue, and a lot of, in Spain, they have a lot of diagnosis with fibromyalgia rather than chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
But it's more or less the same set of systems that are being diagnosed as fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
I find that it's really good because they get in touch with their movement, with what they are, they release, they let go, they stop being out of control, and they stop having lost control of their life, and they let go of the control, but they are in command of the letting go. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'm hoping to be able to accompany that kind of space. And what, as a teacher, I'm a bit of a teacher. I was a teacher before I did shiatsu, and I'm a bit of a group facilitator. So I like to support the practitioners. I like to hold a space for them so that they can go away from any workshop I'm doing. And I hope in this workshop, with a tool in their toolbox, that they will feel very confident about using, even though it can be quite dramatic and even though it can be quite hard work, you know?
Yeah, no, that sounds great. And it sounds like a really good kind of a really good combination of your approach and, you know, like Ivan and Cindy and Nina, you know, because they're all bringing a lot of techniques in, a lot of knowledge and stuff like that. And I think it's so important just to get to that source of where healing really takes place, you know, and I think Seiki is really great for that. It kind of strips away everything and it gets you really in touch with the essence of the work, doesn't it? And I'm totally with you. I think it's really great to combine it with shiatsu myself. I think it's like this kind of central experience there. So it sounds great.
Oh, good. Glad you said that.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Yeah. Because we've got Alice, don't forget, we've got Alice Wilden here. She lives locally to us. So we've got our own. We've got our own lovely Seiki teacher. She's great. You know, so we in fact, we did a workshop with her here just earlier this year. So yes, I love it. I think yeah. Okay,
we had
great.
In Spain 2 years ago.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, it's lovely to see you. And I think
lovely to see you too.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. And we've got, I think, Mike next.
Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. So let's get Mike on the stage.
Okay.
Mike, I have to say you've got a really great combination of presenters there.
Yes, I'm very happy. I would join the summit myself.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
but if you make a party, you should organize it the way that you like it yourself too. And,
absolutely. Yes. Yeah.
And I'm very happy, for example, that at this summit we have more female lecturers than male lecturers, which is also quite uncommon in the shiatsu world.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the idea, like with Nina, we always want to have some young blood on the shiatsu scene. So just to give younger people an opportunity to show themselves, because there are so many good people, but you don't know them. You have to find them. And so when we choose the lecturers, we put emphasis on this, like young people, hopefully more female. And this year, I think we made it very fine.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. The way they all fit together is really, really good. Yeah. So what about you, Mike? I mean, I can't believe that you've done 10,000 treatments in a burnout setting. I mean, that's pretty amazing in itself. Tell us a little bit about that.
It was actually in our school, we always do clinical projects. So we look for doctors or clinics who work on a specific topic. We try to get in contact with them, and then we start a shiatsu project there. And in 2012, we started this clinical burnout project in cooperation with doctors in Vienna. And it's not that I all have done it on my own, but I was the supervisor. I initiated the project. I was the leader of the project. I was the supervisor of the project.
Wow.
And all those years we have collected like, around 10,000 treatments, and the project is still going on. So I think, yes, we have a little bit of experience in that area.
Yes.
But the idea was, I'm very happy that Ivan does the burnout topic, just to see also another approach.
Yeah.
So I would say I picked up the leftovers from our menu, which is the chronic fatigue syndrome.
Oh, really?
Because kind of.
Well, I don't know. I think chronic fatigue is a really interesting one. I mean, it's so tricky to treat. It's so tricky from a shiatsu point of view to treat. You know, it's so easy to over sedate. This is my own experience with it. That the mistakes I made early in my career I would just over sedate. You know, and it's a tricky one, getting that the right balance between helping the symptoms, but also building up the energy. I think it's a very interesting subject,
I think so too. It's not easy. It's not easy. And I was a little bit surprised that in the first poll, like 1/3, like this distribution was very even between burnout, depression.
I know. I was really surprised. It was so evenly distributed, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes. And I'm not sure about this because, when we talk about fatigue, there are many levels of fatigue. And CVS is a very specific form of fatigue. And usually we talk about myalgic encephalomyelitis, which is a very specific symptom. And it's really a it's difficult for me in English, a neuroimmunological breakdown of the system.
Yes.
So, and people who are in this stage, they are really, they have bad restrictions, sometimes for months, and they really take care. So you don't get them in your practice. They don't come to you. You have to go
they
to
can't
them.
actually physically get there, can they? No, that's right.
Yeah. And so in this workshop, I just want to make clear what we are talking about. So from the very common tiredness we see in society now till really the very specific chronic fatigue syndrome. So we will cover all stages of tiredness, because I think in your normal practice you get people who are really, like you could say, tired to the bones, but really not like TFS candidates.
No.
But personally, what I see, I think the topic is increasing, because there are studies that you could say 1 to 10% of the people who had COVID are in danger of getting CVS, like as part of the long COVID syndrome. And I think the numbers will rise, and what we see, especially right now in winter time, so for many people there is enormous disorder in the immune system, so it really doesn't function normal anymore, and they get sick like twice a month, or for 6 months they have this downbreak of the immune system, and that has become a very severe topic, I guess.
Yes, I've noticed that myself. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And but CVS, for me personally, it's always interesting, because I like that kind of symptoms. And also from the medical point of view, those clients, they're very difficult to treat, and they have not found the clue what really led to TFS. So there is no medical point that you say, okay, this is it, because this is why it's called a syndrome. It's just a cluster of very specific syndromes. And one syndrome, for example, is like a very high level of stress intolerance. And so my experience is, and this is what I want to share when we do the workshop, is when we work with tired people, I think there are some very simple rules that are helpful, which I have found out. For example, less is more. Less is more.
Yeah.
So not doing too much meridian work, maybe also doing shorter sessions, like 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. But because the system is so tired, it cannot digest a huge amount of input. So we have to make a little input, very little input, so that the system, especially the nervous system, is able to integrate and digest the input we give. So if we downscale our input, then we have to ask the question, which input? Because if I do less, I have to be very precise of what I do.
Absolutely. That's definitely a challenge.
I cannot do everything. And I think the wonderful contribution we can offer to the clients, but also to the doctors, is that we work with Qi. And because if we talk about being fatigued, we talk about missing Qi. So we don't have enough Qi, which is very obvious, because if we have enough Qi, we are not tired. So, and then I think the more complicated syndrome gets, my approach is I like to make it as easy as possible. So and we go back to the roots of shiatsu. So, okay, we are talking about qi. So which organs are missing this kind of qi, the quality of qi? And how can we, with very, very little treatment protocols, how we can support the body to build up this qi again? Because as I said, less is more. So maybe I just do 2 or 3 things, but I have to be very precise which 2 or 3 things I do. And in my work, I have found out, so sometimes it's much better for these people if you work with points, because like working on the whole body can already, for very tired people, can be very stressful for the nervous system.
Yes.
So which points do we use, in what kind of way we do use the points? And with this approach, I found out you can even treat really also people suffering from the chronic fatigue syndrome. But
Yes.
if you don't do it right, so if you overdo it, so one very specific character of the syndrome is that everything gets worse later on.
Yeah.
So if my treatment is too much, then all the symptoms will go to the roof the next week. And
Absolutely, yeah. No, I've had that experience when I was just starting out. I definitely was guilty of that until I learned the hard way that you had to do exactly what you say. Really emphasize very targeted tonification and be very careful, because it's so easy to do that, to overtreat. So easy.
And
yeah.
what I also think is we don't pay much attention to tiredness in our society, and I think we have to take it much more. Like it's an illness. I don't like to talk about illness, but you know what I mean. We have to take it
Yes.
very serious. So, because if you're tired, take care from the first moment on. You feel this tiredness for more than 1 month, you really should do something.
Yes,
Because
absolutely. Yes. No, that's right. I think that's absolutely right. And it's one of those things that can just kind of build up, and it's just because of the whole society that we're in. It's a doing culture, isn't it? A doing culture, doing an active thing. Rest is.
Yes, but if we don't pick the people up, the tiredness, it just reaches deeper and deeper levels in our being till we are completely lost. And I think we are like halfway in this process in the whole society, because now if you walk on the streets, you can see the eyes of the people. It's like everyone is like almost half dead, fighting to survive in everyday struggles.
Sure.
And I think with shiatsu, especially with shiatsu, we can offer so much help here, and this is what we want to do. So I'm really looking forward to it. And also we would, like CVS, if we see it from the traditional Chinese point of view, it has to do with the Luo vessels, and also with the phlegm in the Luo vessels, which is very difficult to treat with the hands. But we will also talk about that a little bit, so maybe that we can advise some herbal medicine, or at least send them to herbal doctors who are very good with this stuff. Because if we don't address the two, and for example the Luo vessels are blocked by phlegm, it's very hard to really make progress also with shiatsu. So we have a lot of things to cover in 3.5 hours, but I think we will do it that people can take something home.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations. And we've got a little bit of time left now for any questions. So perhaps we could invite everyone back onto the stage. I don't know if Dinah's actually marked up any questions yet, but we'll just get everyone back on. So yeah, if anyone's got any questions for the group, I'm just going to take the slides off so that so you can see everyone a bit clearer. There we go. Okay, perfect. So let's see. Have we got any questions? First of all, let's find out. I tell you what we can do while we're waiting for the questions to flood in. Is I'll run a poll and just see how many people have already booked to come. I'm sure you'd be interested in that. So I've actually got a poll that I've prepared, which is basically you're booked, not booked, not sure, or sorry, I can't make it. So I'm going to share that and just see how many of the people who are on the webinar are already committed to go, or not just thinking about it, or not sure, or they can't make it. So let's have a look. There we go. Look, very good. So you got like 4 or 5% already booked of the whole audience, and you got 15% are definitely coming, but they haven't booked yet. So hopefully this webinar will tip them into the into actually pressing the button and making sure they get their travel sorted and everything like that. So brilliant. Okay.
I would like to say that we have a limited number of participants, so we don't take more than 120 people.
Right.
Because
Okay.
we really want to work with the people. We don't, you know, you've been in Vienna 2017. We were crazy. We had the biggest congress with like 600 people. But this time we will stay very concentrated and focused. So small groups, limited number of participants. 120 is the top. Until end of April, you get the early bird price, which is 50 euros cheaper than the regular price. So if you want to come, make sure you make it quick, because we close it down, no discussion.
Do you know what? I can remember that Vienna. I remember, Mike, I remember you running around and they were saying, can we fit another 10 people in? Can we fit? And you were going, no, we can't. Oh, okay, we'll fit them in. It was like that, wasn't it? I remember the atmosphere of just like, because it was so oversubscribed. And the other thing I think, which is really interesting, a really good thing, is the fact that you're all the presenters, because the thing about congresses I've done in the past is there's always this terrible feeling as a presenter, like, is anyone going to go to my workshop, or is everyone going to go to the other one that's booked up by this even more famous person up against me? You know what I mean? So you've got rid of all of that kind of vibe, and it just really focused in. It sounded like it really did work well last year for you. So yeah.
There's a couple of questions now.
There are, and I'm going to flag up the first one here from Simon David. What's the recommended level of shiatsu experience? What do you think? Anyone want to say? Maybe Mike can start that, or anyone?
Well, we had students from our school at the summit, and I could say they benefited a lot, but I think you should at least have 1.5 to 2 years trainings to benefit most of it. That's the one part. But last year it was very interesting, because we also had people who did not shiatsu at all. So they came from different therapeutic professions, and they benefited too, because as you heard, like we do stuff that suits to everyone, and at the end of the day, it's also a personal healing journey you book. So we had coaches, we had psychotherapists, we had medical doctors.
Amazing.
So to answer that, I think you benefit most if you have like 1.5 to 2 years of training, but you can also benefit from it if you don't do shiatsu at all. And we have the experience for last year, and it was wonderful. They liked it a lot.
Yes, it sounded like that. It was really did. Okay, we've got another question, which I think we've all partially answered already, actually. This is from Elon, which says, beside the topic, what changes were done in the coming summit compared to the previous summit? So have you checked, have you developed anything in the actual structure of the summit that
yes,
kind
of. So we really want, we integrated the morning exercises also as a really topic of the program. So to work on one topic, we want to offer a Neigong training, which I think is very specific. And so you do this also 4 times in a row, really to get an idea of this work. And then right now we are working, we want to integrate doctors, psychotherapists also in the summit, but we are still working on that, so we didn't put it out. So to make connection to these professions, also to hear their point of view, their experience, and exchange with them. And so to integrate the medical and the psychotherapeutical part as well. And we even started now a pilot project in Vienna. As you know, I like to do this kinds of works. We have a CVS pilot project, and with a student group, and also in cooperation with doctors. I'm very happy to present the results then on the summit. But basically, like the structure of the hours will stay the same. We did the workshops a little bit longer, so we added half an hour to each workshop, so we have more time with our lecturers also, because they have so much to share. So we said you need more time for this. Yes, so we did some twists to make the experience more convenient, and yeah.
I guess you learn as you go along, don't you? You certainly learned a lot on that first one. I remember that.
Yes.
You're never going to forget that, Mike. Okay, here's a question for everyone. Is anyone want to put their hand up and address isolation related to depression and drug addiction? Yeah. Anyone likely to do that? Yeah, Cindy?
Well, I'm not going to address how to deal with drug addiction, but we did, when we were doing our rehearsal together, we did kind of we stumbled across the idea that actually isolation was the core topic between us. It was the connecting theme that we're all going to be having running in the background, as it were.
Yes, interesting. So it's interesting that question came up then.
Yeah.
You know, so Eleanor, well done. You hit it right on there. I think that this is interesting from Louis. From your experience, how are doctors keen to integrate shiatsu for burnout and depression in their treatments? So anyone got any experience? I know you have, Mike, but anyone else got any experience working with the medical profession? No? Yeah, Jill.
I think it's difficult to say doctors in general. I think there's always a few rogue doctors out there who've maybe even received treatment and they just know it's right and they go for it. Here in Spain, it's complicated because it's a very structured social security system, and they do their best to keep us away. So, you know, even if those doctors are trying to integrate stuff in, they're up against it.
Sure.
So I think it's also depends on which country you're in, but doctors are human.
We actually had a doctor study with us at the Shiatsu College here, the same school that Cindy said. So that's a good way of getting people involved, actually getting trained up as Shiatsu practitioners. But that is very rare, isn't it? Yeah.
3 doctoral students. No, I've had 3 already.
Oh, really? There you go. Maybe
Yeah.
I think yes. Yeah. There we are. Is it going to take place at the same place, Mike?
Yes.
The same venue?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's easily dealt with. And we've got 2 minutes left. Would there be an online possibility for some lectures possible before or after the summit? I don't know if you've got any plans to do any of that. I think you're going to do a follow-up, aren't you? Online follow-up.
Yeah, we do a follow-up, and so we also have like an e-learning area where you when you have been on the summit. So we will film every workshop, but what we film, we just make it for the participants, but so that you have each workshop will be filmed, and we do a rehearsal. We do a follow-up care like 3 months later, but there is no live transmission or something like that. If you would love that.
Great. That's like a hybrid kind of approach. That's amazing. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Okay,
brilliant. Well, look at that. We managed to get all the presenters in, Mike, and we had Q&A. There we are. A good sign that the organization is working. I just want to say a big thank you to Dinah for sorting out all the questions and looking after the chat, and a big thank you to all of you for showing up. We had, Nina's had to leave us. She's teaching. She's very busy. She's teaching already. Ivan just literally came straight from class. So it's just, wonderful that you all found the time to contribute to this webinar. And I really wish you all the best for your summit. So thank you very, very much. Yep. And I just wanted to say that if you're interested in booking for the summit, sounds like you better get on and book it as soon as possible. I've put the link to the summit in the replay email that everyone will get. So when the replay email comes through in a little while, then it'll be, oh, look, someone splashed this up. Do you use Zen Shiatsu? Is Christine asked. The final question. Zen Shiatsu, anyone? Yep, we've got a few nods there. Yeah. Okay, great. So we're going to say goodbye, everyone. And see you in Vienna.
Bye-bye.
bye bye.
Close up the session.
Thank you, Cliff. See you.
Yeah.